Welcome to another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene, aka Super Heavyweight. You can get to me on Twitter at Super Heavyweight. I'm always willing to talk football, and week one is in the books. Whether you like it or not, if you're a Bucks fan, whether you like it or not, here we are. I'll be joined today by my special guest, Peter Blake. And Peter, tell everybody how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, on Twitter, it's pblake1003, or you can listen to my sports talk radio show on WTAN 1340 AM. It's called The Sports Web. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. And I got to say, on Sunday, that was a lot of nonsense that the Buccaneers brought.
Oh, yeah, most definitely, man. 42-14 was the final score for anybody who's doesn't have a TV or cable or radio or anything. That's pretty much how it went down. I got on Sunday night and gave my initial thoughts about what I saw in the game, and I was embarrassed. I really was, because I was thinking that we were going to see improvements on this team and on both sides of the ball. And at the end of the day, what we had was a lot of miscommunication, a lot of people not playing in their assignments, and not to mention the fact that we're out. Our number one receiver was not in the game, so it was just a lot of things. It was a perfect storm. And then on the other side of the field, you've got Ken Whisenhunt, who to me is one of the most underrated coaches in the NFL. I live here in Arizona. I remember when he was when he was the coach of the Cardinals, and all the good things he did with his team in here in Arizona with little or nothing. So hats off to him. He called a hell of a game, and his players as a team collectively did execute as a team, and they made that play calling look good. So we're going to jump right into this, and Peter, I want to get your take on it. You're in Florida right now, and I'm sure you've got the pulse of the fan base. And what happened? In your mind, what did you see that happened?
I saw no effort on Sunday. I mean, it was completely embarrassing, just like you said, as a Bucs fan, to watch this team play, to get ready for this, to get excited about this team, and then to see that on Sunday. What the hell was that? Did Lovie Smith prepare this team? Where was the defense? So you talk about maybe you're not having the greatest defensive talent, but you still have Gerald McCoy, who's making $100 million. You still have Levante David. You still have some pieces on this team. Where was the fight? And then you hear Levante David get on a radio program on a local station and basically say in so many words the reason why that defense was deflated because they called a penalty on Major Wright on the first drive. Get over it. You get paid as a professional to play football. Go out there, bust your ass, and play better than what you did. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit passionate right now because I don't know what that was on Sunday. Honestly, I expected a lot of emotion. There was no emotion at all. I expected this defense to be better in the second year. They look like they were all rookies out there. And then offensively, it's the same old story. The offensive line can't protect Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston didn't have the greatest game. He's a rookie quarterback. You got to have better decisions out of him, especially with the first throw there. I mean, the quarterback is undercutting the route, but your offensive line has to do a better job of protecting. And the coaching-wise, I think Lovie Smith was completely and utterly outcoached by Ken Whisenhunt.
Oh, most definitely. I can't agree with you more. And that's like I said, they came to play. They came to win. They didn't come to play. They came to win.
Completely.
And that's what
a quarterback like Marcus Mariota, who I believe still is not that good, but when you have a defense that lets him sit back there and basically have a picnic and have 5-6 seconds to throw the ball. I mean, he's just getting rid of the ball. There's no pressure at all. 13 for 16, 209 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's a rookie quarterback coming into your house. And what can you say about Lovie Smith still not having a win at home and his tender? That's embarrassing. That's completely embarrassing to be a Bucs fan and watch this. And talk about this on radio on Saturday? Are you serious? I just got done putting a show on Facebook called the Sports Web TV Edition. And to me, I don't know what I still can't believe this is the team that we saw somewhat in the preseason, because you could see flashes of brilliance. On Sunday, it just looked like in all facets, offensively, defensively, special teams, they were all equally worthless.
Yeah, and that's what I saw. I will say though, Doug Martin looked good for not getting any holes open up for him. I thought he did really well, and I think that he will be a big producer for us. Sims was another one that I thought they should have given the ball to him a little bit more. They should have mixed it up with with uh, Sims and Doug Martin at this, mix it up and get them both in there a little bit more. Even getting passes out of the backfield would have kind of freed it up. The play calling, it looked very vanilla to me. And I do realize that you don't have a lot of time to throw, or you don't have a lot of time to make plays develop, but you have to game plan. I mean, I'm sure, I heard they have a month to game plan for the Tennessee Titans, the offense did. But keep in mind, you don't have Mike Evans. You've got Mike Evans on the field. You've got a totally different dynamic than what you're looking at. I mean, you've got these other receivers that fought in training camp to get out here to be able to play and get playing time, and they disappeared. They disappeared. They didn't do anything to make plays, to take pressure off of Vincent Jackson on the other side. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I think with a little bit of work, he's going to come along and he's going to be a great asset to this team. But as it stands right now, they have to do something. I noticed in the third quarter, I believe I was looking at third quarter into the fourth quarter, I started seeing that hurry up. I started seeing a faster cadence, and it looked like that was working. That is something that I expected to see from the beginning, was a faster pace offense than what we saw. I saw players walking up to the line. I saw players that were stepping over each other in their blocks, and it was like I said, it was embarrassing to see that. It looked like a high school football game the way these guys were playing. And you know me, I'm a borderline homer, but this, I mean, if this is what your production is for the regular season, then some things need to change. I'm not saying coaching changes, but possibly personnel changes. This falls on the coaches with the penalties. Penalties were horrible. Penalties were murder. Doug Martin, 20-yard gain.
Ridiculous.
Doug Martin gets a 20-yard gain and it gets called back. Laundry on the field. That the hit that Major Wright laid on that player was legal. I've looked at it 6 ways to Sunday, and I do not like NFL referees dictating a game. If there's a penalty in the past, Deshaun Golston was penalized, personal foul. It was a legitimate call, but the referees should not have any influence on the game other than calling a penalty. That was garbage. This is the NFL, and that guy, I forgot who Major Wright hit, but it was a legitimate hit. And it wasn't dirty. There was nothing dirty about it. So,
I believe Sankey, Bishop Sankey.
Yeah, and Bishop Sankey, a guy that, what did he have? 60 yards was his best game last season, and this guy is running like he's a Pro Bowler. The defense,
Kendall Wright just running wide open like he's Calvin Johnson or something. I mean, where was the pressure? Where was the coverage? On top of it, you talk about the penalties, 12 for 97 yards. Again, this has to get cleaned up. This was one of their Achilles heels last year for this team. In fact, I got a new nickname for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's called Suicide Squad, because they kill themselves with all the stupid mental mistakes and all the penalties every game. This is only the first game. They have to clean it up, Gene, and if they don't clean it up, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. I think this game coming up on Sunday versus the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans is a winnable game. despite what everybody saw on this past week, this is a winnable game. I'm hoping that this loss is a wake up call for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's something that they can all look back on and remember this going through the season to have them motivated to play at a higher level. And you know me, I'm borderline homer on this team. I love my team, but what I saw is unacceptable. It's
Agreed.
as if they gave up. Uh, there are some teams that are mentally tough. You can punch them in the mouth, kick them in the nuts, or whatever. They're going to come back and give you their best shot.
Right.
What I saw from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even when they were down by 2 touchdowns, it was possible for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get back in and make some plays. But I really I don't know. I hope that everybody looks at this game film and sees what they need to improve on, and let's see some improvement here.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the preseason. I was like, hey, that's just the preseason. You shouldn't be seeing this in a regular season game. A lot of the illegal formations. You've got an offensive lineman that's lining up with nobody in front of him multiple times, and I, I don't see high schoolers doing that, and that bothers me. I mean, my son plays football, and I go to JV games. I don't see junior varsity linemen lining up like that. Those are mental mistakes that shouldn't happen. And I'm looking at this team and this offensive line and some of the decisions they've made. What is the guy, Chirilius?
Yes.
I was very disappointed,
Yeah.
and he's
They're
almost
doing it by
he's
creation.
almost a O'Neal Cousins like player. That's what I'm seeing. That's if you want to slam somebody, that's pretty much where I'm putting him right down there, and he has a lot to prove. So
Yeah.
I think get these rookies. I know Donovan Smith is injured again. Um, that kind of concerns me this early on in the season. I saw some good play out of him. To believe it or not, I saw some good play out of him, but they've got to put it together for a whole 4 quarters.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it was the right side. You talk about Terilius. You talk about the rookie Marpert. They weren't very good, but it's not like they have all rookies. And let's stop making the excuse that they have 2 rookies on this offensive line, because the New England Patriots have 3 rookies on their offensive line, and yet they come together as a cohesive unit and they protect Tom Brady. They need to do the same thing for Jameis Winston. And I don't mean to be a negative Nancy about this, but, this stuff has to get cleaned up. Now, there was some positive things in this game. Jameis Winston throws 2 touchdowns. He also has 2 interceptions. He has 2 fumbles that he recovers. You have Austin Seferian-Jenkins catching 2 touchdowns. But what was Seferian-Jenkins doing high-stepping to the end zone when they're down by double-digit points? I mean, that's uncalled for. That's something he got penalized for last year, standing on a football, Mr. Captain Morgan. And he did the same thing, it seemed like. Again, high-stepping to the end zone. Act like you've been there before. I get it. He's a young kid. He's having a great game. But this just shows you right now, goes back to the whole point of leadership. Where is the leadership on this team? You have McCoy making $100 million. He's supposed to be the leader. Where was he on Sunday? You have Levante David just got a new contract. Where was he? Oh, that's right. He was talking about how the defense was deflated by 1 penalty call. You're a professional football player. Act like it. You get paid a paycheck. Go out there, bust your ass, and give 100% effort. And there was no 100% effort on Sunday. On top of that, I think it falls on the coaching staff, especially Lovie Smith, who seemed to can't still get a win at Ray J. It's just unbelievable to me. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and watching the game, I went back and I'm a glutton for punishment. I went back in. And watched the game again.
Right.
And Steve White is somebody I love. Steve White. Steve White is a guy. If you can find him on Twitter, Steve White.
Tell you the truth, Gene, I actually had Steve White on one of my draft specials a long time ago for 10:10 a.m. I had the privilege of having him as one of my analysts. He's great, and definitely you should follow him because he definitely knows what he's talking about. In fact, he was the main guy that said Michael Bennett was the best pass rusher for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers years ago. and they let him go. So
Yeah. And basically what he was saying was a lot of the touchdowns that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave up were preventable. Uh, Mariota wasn't, he got 4 touchdowns because you had Buccaneers playing out of position. If we go back to the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when they played in that Tampa 2, they were disciplined. They stayed at their assignments. They didn't bite off of these play action fakes. They didn't bite off of the not the read option because they didn't really have it then, but they just didn't. They were disciplined. They were a lot more disciplined than what we saw.
Mhm.
And I mean, I saw plays where Quan Alexander was stepping up to the line, and had he been playing in his middle linebacker position, there was a play. There are a couple of plays that balls wouldn't have been thrown in his direction. So it's just frustrating for me. I don't want to be like everybody else in in the media, especially the Tampa media, who's just down on everything. But that game was just it was painful to watch, and it was even more painful to watch the second time. And if this team has any kind of pride, they'll come back and win this game on Sunday. They have any kind of pride, because I'll tell you right now, from what I saw from the New Orleans Saints, I do believe that this game on Sunday is winnable. I don't care what anybody says. I think it's winnable with the talent that we have. Even if Mike Evans is out again, we've got enough talent where we should be winning. And if our starting receiver, the guy that's replacing Mike Evans temporarily, can't step up, let's get somebody off the practice squad. Let's get somebody else that's hungry, that wants to get playing time, that wants to make a name for themselves. That's what we need to be doing, because status quo doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. And if you don't have Evans on Sunday, of course, it's going to be a blow to the offense. But you have Lewis Murphy, who proved last year that he could step in. Where was he on Sunday? Nowhere to be found. And you talk about the running game, getting back to that running game. Look, they only ran Doug Martin 11 times, but when you get down 21-7, 28-7, then your running game becomes ineffective. So your defense, if you're really depending on your defense, and it seems like Lovie Smith and his whole philosophy has been, let's depend on our defense. If your defense isn't doing the job and they're allowing the Titans off of 6 scoring opportunities to score 5 touchdowns, and a quarterback who's a rookie to only miss 3 passes, that's a problem. That's a problem that has to get addressed, because now you have a wily veteran in Drew Brees, who I believe has regressed to a certain degree, but he's going to be throwing, and if you're not going to be able to get pressure on him, you're going to be in big trouble on Sunday, because the Saints, that's a must-win game for them. They can't start out 0-2. If you're the Bucs, you can't start out 0-2. The Bucs last year, with all intents and purposes, Gene, they had a chance to win that game last year. They were up, I believe, by 10 points. They blew the lead. So it's definitely a possibility. But, again, going back to the emphasis of this whole show, you have to show effort. You have to have heart, and you have to play with pride. If you don't play with those things on Sunday, you're going to be 0-2. And guess what? Doesn't get any easier, because the next week after that, you face the Houston Texans.
Yeah. And, like I said, I know we talked about this in the beginning of the season. I still believe that this team can make some noise. I still believe that this team can overcome what happened. I think something like this needed to happen to wake them up, because I don't know if they believe going in that they were just going to come in and wipe the floor with the Tennessee Titans because they were 2-14, or I don't know what their mindset was. But it seems like after that major right penalty, and then on top of that, the Marcus Mariota fumble, which was a fumble and was called a player was down, non-reviewable, I think that just changed the whole tide of the game. And what Lovie Smith needs to be doing is make sure that his people are mentally tough. You hit them in the mouth, and you know what? They're going to come back and take the ball from you. We didn't see any of that. We didn't see those players flying around the field making plays, swarming to the ball like we did. What game? That would have been the Cincinnati game. We saw players. I mean, I know it was preseason, but that was a Tampa 2 where they were getting pressure on the quarterback. And that, in turn, gave your secondary and your middle linebackers a chance to set up, and they weren't getting hounded, and they weren't having to hold their blocks or hold their receivers for long periods of time, because over the course of a game, that wears you out. So they've got to get pressure. What I saw was Gerald McCoy was double teamed almost that whole game, with the exception of maybe a few plays. But everybody else, I can't account for what they were doing. There
Right.
should have been more pressure. I know he was getting the ball out, very quickly. I know it was mostly bubble screens and short passes. But you know what? This is where Lovie Smith makes his money. You're supposed to be able to game plan. And the second half of the game, I saw no adjustments.
None.
And this is what's frustrating for me. I know the average fan watches football and they watch where the ball goes. I'm watching the formations. I'm watching to see if a team is making adjustments in the second half. What I saw was a team in the Tennessee Titans that had a perfectly laid out plan, not perfectly laid out. They had a laid out plan, and everybody executed. On the other side of the ball, it was a perfect storm where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't get anything to bounce their way, couldn't get an interception couldn't pick up on the interceptions or potential turnovers, and it was just it was a nightmare. Because just imagine, think about this, Peter. If if they get that interception, if Tampa gets that interception, Marcus Mariota's his passer rating goes down 26 points
Sure.
off that one interception. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't take advantage of situations, and I stand by what I say. Marcus Mariota is a hell of a quarterback, but he hasn't been tested. This is the first game. He's got a lot. He's got a long way to go. And I stand by Jameis Winston. I think that Jameis Winston will be a good quarterback for a long time in the NFL, as long as he can get the protection he needs, and Dirk Cotter can make those adjustments to where we can turn negatives into positives.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said on my TV show that I just posted to Facebook, I think the offensive line really bought into the team's motto of siege the day, because it was like Winston was under siege all day because that right side could not protect him at all. The left side wasn't so bad. But again, Logan Makins, Evan Smith, these are veterans. Shirelius, he's a veteran. You got to play better. And then with that being said, all these players' efforts on Sunday, how much do you want Lovie Smith to be the coach? Because again, if you keep on putting out these type of efforts, Lovie Smith won't be the coach for long. I don't care. I mean, if you're getting blown out by the Tennessee Titans, this wasn't the New England Patriots or the Seattle Seahawks or the Green Bay Packers. This was the Tennessee friggin' Titans, a 2-14 team last year. If you keep on having these type of efforts, Lovie Smith is not going to be your coach for long. So not only play for yourself and play for the fans, but play for your coach if you truly want him to be your coach.
Well, let me ask you this. We've seen what's happened with the coaching carousel here in Tampa, going all the way back to John Gruden, from John Gruden to Raheem Morris, from Raheem Morris to Greg Schiano, and sorry, that slipped out.
Yes.
And now here we are with Lovie Smith.
A lot.
So let's keep this in perspective. Ron Rivera comes to the Carolina Panthers in 2011. He has three non-winning seasons, three horrible seasons, and then the next year, the Carolina Panthers turn it around. Now, keep in mind, the Carolina Panthers were in salary cap hell, and they're just now getting out of it. Even today, it's been that bad for them. And what I've noticed about the Carolina Panthers is they haven't gone big into free agency. They haven't, they've got to play a few players here and there, but they haven't gone real big into that. A lot of their players coming out of the draft. And I think that they've got the right idea. Yeah, this was one game. Let's hope that this doesn't continue to be a trend, but this is one game. And I know that we had a bad season last year, and we're putting that behind us. And yes, this was the first game of the season, But I really do believe that any coach, in order to get a system in place, it takes a little bit longer. There are some exceptions to the rules, as a lot of Bucks fans have pointed out to me, with Atlanta, with New York, just certain teams that have been able to turn it around a little bit quicker. But at
Right.
the end of the day, we're not those teams. We've had a long period of time of not winning. We've had a culture of just getting by. And the Buccaneers haven't really had a winning season since 2010. So, that culture has been ingrained here, and it's going to take some time to get that out of here. And, like I say, people can say what they want. I'm not making excuses. These are just my observations. And I think that Lovie Smith will turn this team around. All right, that's just what I think.
Look,
Um,
I predicted this team to go to the playoffs and win this division. I felt embarrassed on Sunday. That effort, they wouldn't win
one
one game
game,
in the
just
NFL.
one game, man.
Yeah,
Well,
I
you,
mean,
you
one
got
game.
you got
But
you got
here's the thing, just one game. If you keep on having those type of games and those type of efforts, then there's going to be questions asked about Lovie Smith. I like Lovie Smith, but you got to see improvement. You bring up Ron Rivera, there was improvement there. I mean, yeah, it's one game, but it's one game like last year. It can't happen like that. You can't be getting blown out in your own home stadium. That's unacceptable. So do I think it's a possibility that he gets fired? I don't know, because if he keeps on putting out these type of efforts and his team is not responding and you don't see any improvement, then I think the Glazers would have to consider it. Right now, I believe Lovie Smith can get it done, but we could sit here and talk all day long. It's all conjecture at this point. It has to be
absolutely.
out there on the field. If you're not seeing any improvement, then I don't know what we're doing this for. I mean, how many years do you give Lovie Smith? I think he has to win this year, and I think he definitely has to show some improvement in his third year. Again, he came up to a messed up situation. We know about the drafts. It just all kinds of busts not working out. Going in the free agency last year was a complete disaster. There's no quick fix in the NFL, but there have been teams that get new coaches, like the Kansas City Chiefs, that turn it around in 1 year. The Philadelphia Eagles turn it around in 1 year. So it can be done. It just has to be done right. So I guess what you're asking me is, do I think there's a possibility that Lovie Smith could be fired by the end of the year? Yes, if there's no improvement. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think this is hopefully one game, a one-game instance. If not, then the players have decided basically they don't want to play for Lovie Smith, and then he's out of here. That's on the players. It's not just the coaching, it's on the players. If the players show that type of effort that they did on Sunday, then it's an easy decision for the Glazers. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm getting ahead of myself. My emotions kind of taking over here. I just felt like there was going to be more promise on Sunday, and it didn't turn out that way.
Well, let me say this, and when you talk about the Glazers, I do believe that it was Brian Glazier around the time of the draft, or a little bit after the draft, where he asked the fans to temper their expectations. So obviously, they know something. And for him to come out and say, temper your expectations, it speaks volumes to me.
Sure.
And based on what I saw, this last game, based on what I saw in the preseason, especially with the defensive line, me, I've been a stickler about this defensive line since the very beginning. I thought that is the catalyst of the whole team right there, because when you're getting pressure on the quarterback, as I keep saying, it's going to make it easier on everybody else. And I think Altron Werner is a good cornerback. I think that Jonathan Banks is a good cornerback. And I think that if you're not giving the quarterback enough time, I think they can hold those receivers or cover those receivers and make plays. But when a quarterback has 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000 to scan the field and find an open receiver, I don't care who it is. It could be Darrelle Revis. Sure. You can't cover a receiver that long if you're giving the quarterback a chance to scan the field. So, as well as I do how the Tampa 2 works, and they have to fix that front. They have to fix that front four.
And
They
whether
have
Jerome
to.
McCoy, yeah, and whether Jerome McCoy is getting double teamed or not, he has to overcome that. I mean, he has to step up. He has to be the leader of this team. He has to be a dominant force like we've seen in his career. 3 points with the New Orleans game. My first point is they have to start out fast. They have to get out on the scoreboard first. They have to neutralize this crowd. Second point, you have to get pressure on Drew Brees, because if you get pressure on Drew Brees, you can force some turnovers. And third, and it's probably one of the most important, stop making the mental mistakes. Stop committing the stupid penalties. Stop hindering your drives, and work on those type of things. And I believe if they can really, minimize those penalties and turnovers and mistakes like that, they have a chance to win this game in New Orleans on Sunday.
Oh, most definitely. And like I said, they have the talent to do it. And I hope, like I've said in the beginning of the show, I hope that this is a wake-up call and they can look at the game film and say, man, if I'd have stayed in my position like we're supposed to in this defense, that wouldn't have happened. And let's hope that they can learn from this and take it out on the field and not make those mistakes, but make plays and get Tampa a win. You know what I'm saying?
Great.
Well, before I let you go, I did want to go over and just ask you, throughout the NFL, did you have any winners and losers for this first week of the NFL season?
I think the biggest winner had to be the New England Patriots. I mean, you get Tom Brady back. He comes out there. You have all the Super Bowl trophies. You have T-Pain singing, "All we do is win, win, win." Basically, Roger Goodell's not there, and then you basically throttle the Pittsburgh Steelers. That score wasn't as close as it looked. The Patriots are clearly back. They clearly won. Another winner, the Buffalo Bills, completely shutting down the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are looked at as a Super Bowl contender. They got completely shut out. And the Buffalo Bills are for real if they can get great quarterback play out of Tyrod Taylor. And then my third, I think my loser in this is the Philadelphia Eagles, because all we talked about in the offseason was how Chip Kelly has Sam Bradford, and he has this new linebacker, and he has this new offense, and DeMarco Murray, and it's all going to work out. And they lose to the Atlanta Falcons on the road last night. I don't know what that was. I mean, Bradford looked impressive at times, but he also looked a little rusty. So I don't know if this is going to work out, because they have a tough game this week versus the Dallas Cowboys, albeit they're going to be without Dez Bryant, so they most likely will have a chance to win. But that's still a divisional matchup. You have to win. And I think my fourth loser of the week has to be the biggest loser of the year, Jason Pierre-Paul. You give up $14.8 million. You can't play for the Giants because he decided to play with fireworks. There's talk now that not only his finger may be cut off, but half of his thumb, the top of his thumb. So he may never play in the NFL game again because he wanted to play with fireworks. Makes no sense to me. Not at all. Makes no sense at all. Look, if the NFL asks you to stay out of jail, stay out of the strip club, don't beat a woman, don't try to mess with a prostitute, and especially don't play with fireworks, and you'll get paid $14.8 million, guess what? I'll sacrifice that life to have the NFL life. I don't think these athletes really get it. I guess I'm in the twilight zone here. I mean, Aldon Smith, JPP, all these guys this offseason just don't get it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. For me, I'm looking. My first winner is the San Diego Chargers. That was an amazing comeback win, and they basically silenced all the critics. Rivers is legit, and I think they're going to go. I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams, especially the Denver Broncos. And that's number one. I thought, my hat's off to the San Diego Chargers. Second, I want to say the St. Louis Rams. They basically punched the Seattle Seahawks in the mouth, and then they went into overtime and won that game. So that's another winner for me. Right. As losers go, Adam Jones of the Cincinnati Bengals is a bum. Uh, you take somebody's helmet off, you rip somebody's helmet off, and you slam their head. Come on, really? This isn't WWE. Why he needs to get a wrestling contract?
He was in TNA for a while, don't you remember? He was a
Maybe he
terrible
could go to New Japan and team up with somebody and get a tag team partner and just go for the title or something, because this is ridiculous.
Him and Alden Smith, they can tag.
Yeah. And there you go. There's my third right there is Alden Smith. This guy, I wish the NFL would intervene, because this guy has issues. I don't know if it's psychological issues or what, but this team, the Oakland Raiders, the San Francisco 49ers, just teams that have given this guy a chance. Somebody needs to intervene. This guy's an investment. If you're paying him any amount of money, he's an investment on your team. You need to get him some help, for real. There needs to be some kind of intervention, because obviously there's something just not right with him, and he needs help. And he seems to be somewhat self-destructive at times. So
I actually have an inside source on this issue that says that anytime Alden Smith, if he was not getting tested for alcohol, he was always drunk. I mean, that was the main problem. He was always drunk. And I don't think I think him having a change of scenery would have been good. You hear that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were interested. I think they dodged a bullet in saying that. When Smith is healthy and when he's not, dealing with the problems off the field, he's a hell of a pass rusher. The problem is he went to Oakland, which is a losing culture, and you don't get away from the scenery. You don't get any change.
It's right across the bay.
Yeah, I know. The problem is right there. It still exists. The NFL hasn't stepped in for the
suspensions.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should be. I think he should be suspended. I think he needs help at this point. But again, is he a talented pass rusher that a lot of teams cover? Absolutely. I don't think the Bucs should have been one of them.
Hey, but it is what it is. Like you said, just same with Greg Hardy. I think we dodged a bullet with him as well. And I'm really, I'm hoping that the team that we have can improve. I really do believe that we are missing a few pieces to go deep into the playoffs. But I think that, if we can improve, if we can show improvement throughout the year, I think we will be headed in the right direction. I'm hoping this is just a bump in the road, and we can just kind of move on from there.
Yeah. Well, make sure you tune into the Sports Web on Saturday afternoons at WTAN 1340 AM. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about.
And my name is Gene. I want to thank everybody for checking us out. Everybody, you have a good one. And look for my next podcast, and we'll be talking more Bucs football. Have a good night.